Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Hope you all are doing well. This is your teacher Rosina of subject English for class 6th. From today, we are going to start our new session, and this is our first lecture or first class. So let's begin with the great name of Allah, who is the most merciful and beneficial. So today we are going to discuss about the letter writing. I hope you all know what letter is. A letter is a written message conveyed from one person to another person. Letter is a thing or a way of communication in which a person who wants to convey some message to another person, he takes a piece of paper and a pen, he writes down the message in a proper way, and then he sends the message or that letter to that person. Now we will be discussing about the types of letters. So there are two main types of letters. The one are formal letters and the other are informal letters. Now what are the formal letters? Formal letters are those letters which are written in a formal way. Such letters are written for official purposes to authorities or companies, etc. Now, so formal letter is being written to the different organizations, to higher authorities or to the companies. So examples of the formal letter. Okay, one of the more thing in writing the formal letter is that we do not use the informal language. We use the formal language, we use the formal format. We keep in mind to use the words that are not informal, and we use the very respective language in that. Examples of the formal letter are appointment letter, like if we have ever applied somewhere for the job and we are being appointed by that company or that organization, so that company sends us the appointment letter telling us that we have been appointed. Then we have the resignation letter. Resignation letter is like if we want to resign from our job in any company or in any organization. So what do we do is that we write a formal resignation letter, giving them the reason that why we want to resign, why we want to quit the job. And an agreement letter, like we make an agreement with the organization in which we are being appointed. And there are a lot of other examples of the formal letter. Then we have informal letter. Informal letter, also called as friendly letter, is a personal letter written to friends or relatives. Now informal letter is very different from the formal letter in the way that in the informal letter, when we write to our relatives or our friends, so what do we do is that we can use informal language. If we are writing to any of our friend, inviting him to the party, or just writing to him and telling him what our vacations are going on, so we just write informally. We do not use any formal language or formal way of writing the letter, and the examples are a letter to the friends or relatives. Okay, so now we will be talking about the format of the letter. Format of the letter means that how do we write a letter, what is the format, what is the way of writing the letter, and what are the rules and the points that we have to keep in our mind while writing a formal or an informal letter. So the first one is sender's address. Now what is the sender's address? If I am sending the letter to anyone or to any company, like either it is a formal or informal letter, if I am sending a letter to any company or I am sending a letter to any friend, what do I have to do is that I will write my own address on the top right hand corner of the page. For example, this is the page, so I have to write my own address on the top right hand side of the page. So this is the page, so I have to write my address here. So we have to write the address, my own address, on the right hand corner. The sender's address is usually put on the top right hand corner of the page. Now what is the reason of writing the address of the sender? The address should be complete and accurate in case the recipient of the letter wishes to get in touch with the sender for further communication. Now if I am writing a letter to my friend or to any company, and if they want to answer my letter, so they will send the answer or the reply of that letter on the address which I Okay, now the second point is date. The sender's address is followed by the date just below it. Now, when I have written my address, after that, just in the next line of that, I will write the date. On the right side of the page, I have written the address on the right, my own address on the right side of the page. So the date will be just be followed by it. It will be right under it. This is the date on which the letter is being written, and I will write the date on which I am writing the letter. For example, if I am writing the letter today, so I will write the date of today. It is important in formal letters as they are often kept on record. So it is important to write the date in the formal letters because they are usually being kept in a record. They keep the record, the organizations or the companies, they keep the record of the letters being sent by the people. Then we have the receiver's address. Now the first one was sender's address, like I have to write my own letter. Then the date on which the letter is being written, then the receiver's address, to whom I am addressing, to whom I am writing the letter, that will be written in the third point. After leaving some space, we print the receiver's address on the left side of the page. The sender's address is on the right hand corner and the receiver's address is on the left side of the page. Whether to write to above the address depends on the writer's preference. Now we can write, for example, when we write if we are writing our letter to any organization, so we can say, for example, we are writing to our own school, so we will write to the principal or to the head of the educators school. So we have to write the receiver's address on the left side of the page, and we can write to, and then we can write the address of the place or of the organization to which we are addressing. Make sure you write the official title, name or position, etc. of the receiver as the first line of the address. Now if we are writing to the director of the school, so we have to address him to the director of the educators. Now if we are writing to the principal or to the teacher, so we have to write it to the principal of the educators or to the teacher of the educators respectively, right? So to whom we are addressing, we have to write the name of that person, we have to write the title or the position of that person. Then we have the greeting. This is where you greet the person you are addressing the letter to. Bear in mind that it is a formal letter, so the greeting must be respectful and not too personal. Now, what is the greeting? Greeting is, for example, we use the salutation. Now, what is a salutation? Salutation is a word that we use in the letters. For example, if we are writing an informal letter, so we use the word dear. So we can write dear mother, dear father, dear friend, dear grandmother, etc. Right? But if we are writing a formal letter, we can definitely not write the words that are informal like dear, but we write sir or madam. If you know the name of the person, the salutation may also be Mr. XYZ or Miss ABC. XYZ or ABC means that here we have to write the name. So if we know the name of the person to whom we are addressing, so with the salutation, right, if we are writing sir or madam, we can write their name as well, right? But remember, you cannot address them only by their first name. It must be the full name or only their last name. Now there are some of the exceptions in the letters, in formal letters, that when you are writing a letter to any formal person, if you are writing a formal letter, so you have to write their full name. But if you are writing a letter to your friend, so you can just write their first name. Then we have the subject. After the salutation, greeting comes salutation or greeting comes the subject of the letter. Now what is the subject of the letter? Subject of the letter means that the main points or the reason why we are writing the letter. Now if I am writing a letter to any if I'm writing a formal letter and I'm writing it to any company for my resignation and I am resigning, so I will write the word subject after the greetings, after the salutation and all that. I will write the word subject. It will be followed by a colon. I will put the colon in front of it, and then I will write in a single line what is the purpose of writing the letter. Then we sum up the purpose of writing the letter in one line. This helps the receiver focus on the subject of the letter in one glance. If I'm writing my resignation letter, so uh, I will write in front of the word subject that resignation letter, right? So when the receiver will open the letter, and from the subject they will have the idea that what this letter is about. Then we have the body of the letter. Body of the letter means in which I have to explain all the reasons or all the matters, why am I resigning, or if there is any other matter on which I am writing the letter. So I will write that matter in a single line in the subject, and after that in the body of the letter I will write all the reasons and I will explain everything. This is the main content of the letter. It is either divided into three paras or two paras if the letter is briefer. Now it depends on, if it is a formal letter it is not usually that lengthy, but if it is about anything important, so that can be lengthy. It could be comprising of three paras or two paras, and it could be comprising of the 4 or 5 paras depending on the matter that is being discussed in the letter. The purpose of the letter should be made clear in the first paragraph itself. Now, whatever the purpose of the letter is, it should be made clear in the very first paragraph of the letter. The tone of the content should be formal. If you are writing a formal letter, definitely you have to write the content that should be in formal way. Do not use any flowery language. Just your language should be simple, in a formal way, in a very respectful way. Another point to keep in mind is that the letter should be concise and to the point. Like you don't have to drag the letter, you don't have to repeat the things over and over again. You should be writing the letter to the point. You should be clear, you should be precise, and it should be concise, and it should be to the point. And always be respectful and concentrate in your language, no matter the subject of your letter. Now you have to be respectful. Now if you are writing a letter, no matter you are writing a letter to complain something, no matter you are writing a letter to resign, no matter you are writing a letter for any other reason, your language should be respectful, right? If you are complaining about something, you have to be respectful. You have to use the language that should not be informal. And then at the end we get the closing of the letter. If we are writing a letter formally to any company or any organization, we end the letter in a very formal or standard way. We just not end the letter by just saying a thank you or in an informal way, but we have to write a formal standard closing or ending at the end of the letter. So at the end of your letter we write a complimentary closing. The complimentary closing, that the person will get to know, a receiver who receives the letter will get to know that the letter is ending here. The words yours faithfully or yours sincerely are printed on the left side of the paper. Now if when we write a formal letter we use the words like yours faithfully, if a person does not know us, right? But if a person knows us and the person is familiar with us, so we write yours sincerely instead of yours faithfully, and we write it on the left side of the paper. First, when we write the subject of the letter, when we have written the subject of the letter, then we have written the body of the letter, in which we have explained all the reasons or of writing the letter and all whatever, for what reason we are writing the letter. After that, on the left side of the page, we write the ending. So we write yours sincerely or yours faithfully. Then after that we have the signature. Here finally you sign your name and then write your name in block letters beneath the signature. This is how the recipient will know who is sending the letter. Now when we are done with the letter, when we have completed the letter, after writing the closing words, we write our name and so now we will be discussing some of the examples of the formal letter. So there were a few points which we had to keep in our mind while writing a letter. So the first was that we have to write the sender's address on the top right hand side of the paper. After that, it would be followed by a date on which the letter is being written. Then on the left side of the paper we have to write the receiver's address. After that there were the greetings or the salutation. Then we had the subject. In the subject we just write in one line what is the purpose of writing the letter. Then we have the body of the letter in which we explain the reasons, and then we have the closing and the signature. So now we will be discussing these. You can see that we have, at first we have the sender's letter. Now this is the sender's letter. Whoever is sending the letter, that person has written his address, and that is D 1801 Neptune Society, DS Marg Lower Parel, Mumbai. All that he has written his own address. Then it is being followed by the date on which date that letter is being written. After the date we write the receiver's address, to whom we are addressing, to whom we are sending the letter. So this letter is being addressed to the editor-in-chief of Hindustan Times. We write to, first of all we write to, and after that we write all the whole of the address of the person to whom we are sending the letter. After that we have the greetings or salutation. As you can see, it is being written sir. Then it is subject. In the subject, then there is the colon. After that we write in one line about the reason we are writing the letter, that is constructions work in our locality during monsoon season causing us difficulties. So he has written the reason in the subject. After that there is the body of the letter. Body of the letter can consist of 3 paras or 4 paras depending on how important the matter is. Now after explaining all the reasons or all the complaints or everything that we are writing the letter for, after that he has written the thanking you, and this is the closing. He has written yours sincerely, and after that the signature or your name. Now if you are writing an informal letter, you do not have to write your own address, because if you are addressing to your friend or to your relatives, they definitely know your address. So if they want to answer your letter, and if they want to send back the letter, so they won't be needing your address, because they already know where you live and what is your address. So you can just start directly from the receiver's address. So you just write to, and then you write the address of the receiver. You can write the date, and then you can write the subject if you want to, and if you don't want to write the subject, you cannot. It depends. After that you just simply has the body of the letter. You explain, if for example now in this letter the person is inviting his friend, so he's writing that, as you know that I cannot think to party without your presence, and I'm writing this letter to invite you for my birthday party. So you just have to write the letter in a very informal way. Depends on how is your relationship with that friend. If you are writing a letter to someone, to any relative of yours, and that person is elder, or your mother or your father, so definitely you write the letter in a very respective way. But if you are writing a letter to your friend, so you can write it very informally. Then you can write with love, your friend, or whatever you want to write, and after that you write your own name. So the difference between the formal and informal letter is that in informal letter you do not have to write your own address, because if you are writing it to your friends or to your relatives, they definitely know where you live and what is your home address. Then you just start directly from the address of the receiver. Then you write the date in a very informal way. You do not have to write the subject if you don't want to. Then you have the salutation or the greetings, where you can write dear mother, dear friend, or you can write the name of your friend. Then there is the body of the letter in which you explain why you are writing the letter, and then there is a simple closing. But in informal letter you write in a formal letter. If you are writing to any company or to any organization, you have to write your own address first, because